Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in to Veteran Nation with the Sergeant. That's myself, Sergeant Bloomling, and the skipper, MT Author, and he'll be on later on. And we're so excited to have some great guests on today. We actually have a female veteran on today for the first time, which is great. We got to make sure that we hit every demographic and make sure that we get a diverse audience. We want every veteran and their family to feel like this is a show that they can come to and they can relate to. And so if you're someone out there and you feel like, hey, somebody that has a story or you're doing some great things in the community that's veteran centric, just, reach out to us on our NRN Plus, and follow our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, make sure that you're following my page, Sergeant Bloomling, on Parler. It's also on Twitter, Facebook. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. But tonight's first guest is Justin Touchette. And he's a Army veteran, and he actually gave up one of his legs for America. He's a true warrior and patriot. And I'm fourth generation military, as everyone knows. And I met Justin just a couple weeks ago. It's crazy how God works things out, but I always feel like God puts the right people into my life at the right time. And Justin, and this is the whole premise of the show, is to get people like Justin on the show to talk about what they're doing, their experiences, and how when they come back here, they're actually trying to be a beacon of hope and light for the community. And other veterans need that. Whatever walk of life you came from, we're all different. This is a diverse melting pot. We're in the United States of America, and we fought for this freedom. So we got to ensure that we support our Constitution and support fellow brothers and sisters who have served, regardless of what branch you're in. So with that, Justin, so much. I know the audience is going to be excited, and all your followers. He's also a country singer, doing great things. And I'm just so excited to talk to you, Justin. And I'm grateful to meet you. And thank you for your sacrifice for America. I salute you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was crazy how I met you. But it's been an honor, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to this interview and been looking forward to it. So yeah, it's been a fun time.
So, I served for 4 years. I was pre and post 9/11. I was a non-commissioned officer. I was on the Bradley that were behind me. So I'm sure as soon as the viewers see that, they know what time of day it is. But,
Yes,
why don't
sir.
you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your story? And, I feel like I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting to hear your story, because I think it's so remarkable. Not every veteran or disabled veteran, is a J.R. Martinez. Not everybody gets blown up downrange. Not everybody, has a war story, but if you served in the military and you put on that uniform, I have a lot of respect for you. But when you do make sacrifices, I think it's very important that we recognize those. And I think that's what a lot of veterans are missing. They're missing that personal touch. So if you don't mind sharing some of your story.
Not at all. So I actually was Air Force first. I joined the United States Air Force in 1999. all the way up until 2005. And then kind of had a little change of career path, decided to join the Army. Was a transporter for a long time, and then I ended up getting injured in Afghanistan in 2008, 2009. And then I had to medically retire in 2011. Took a pretty hard hit, not gonna lie. Ended up having 10 surgeries over the course of 7 years, and then I ended up having to give up my leg in 2016. And to be honest, it was hard. I didn't have this whole veterans network like there's out there now. Went through a couple divorces, and life had gotten me pretty much down and out, and finally broke down, and I went to the VA and got some help, and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I felt like I had lost everything at that point in time, career, family, just everything. So throughout the years, I had played drums, so I was musically inclined. And then I had an Army chaplain that I deployed to Afghanistan with hit me up. He was also, I played drums for him in a church band in Afghanistan, believe it or not. Pretty fun. But he goes, Justin, why don't you pick up a guitar and see where that goes? So 2.5 years ago, I picked up a guitar, and I thought to myself, well, what's a way that I could reach people, especially veterans or just anybody in a whole? And it was through music. So I started to I started playing here and there, and then I actually started songwriting first before I started learning covers. And so it was an interesting experience. I felt that music could pretty much save my life in an instance. So I figured if I could reach them, it'd be that way. And here just a couple weeks ago, I released my first single out on all music platforms. You can find it under my name, and it was called Broken Hearted Fool, which was a great song. It was the first song I ever wrote. But the next single that's getting ready to come out is called Darkest Days, and it has a lot to do with the military side of life and about just being stuck in a place and you needed to get out. And I never in a million years would I have thought that it has led me to where I am. I've gotten a lot of great friends and supporters and fans out of it. And I've had veterans, every time before I play that song, you were actually there the night I played the song. It reaches them, and they come up to me and say, hey man, I needed to hear that, or it's helped out in some way. And that's all I could ever ask for. I mean, I don't know if one day I'll be on some big stage singing for 50,000 people. I mean, if it happens, I'm not going to tell them no. But again, for me, it's about to reach out to them and just give people hope. And with that being said, the Army chaplain that I was telling you about, he also medically retired. And about 2.5 to 3 years ago, we started a program. It was just kind of me and him rolling around the States, seeing vets that were from our old unit and everything, kind of just doing a check-in on them. And it turned out to be something much bigger. So if you guys go on Facebook, or you could type in vetchurch.com, it's just vet church, VET, and then church. It doesn't have to be all religious like that, but Matt is a retired Army chaplain for those that care about that. But it's a group of veterans, and we've gotten over about 3,000 members now. They tune in and watch Matt and I, and we go around doing interviews with kind of like what you're doing here with just any type of veteran or anybody that'll listen, and just kind of being that beacon of hope out there, letting them know that, we're all there for each other, and that we're tired of seeing brothers and sisters take their own lives. And PTSD is a hard thing to struggle with. I mean, I can tell you from experience, and I'm sure many others watching can. So it's been quite an interesting journey, and it's far from over. And but I'm enjoying every minute of it. And the music stuff's coming along great. Unfortunately, because of COVID right now, we had to come off the road a little bit and take time and let things settle down. But as soon as all that's over, we're going to get back on the road and seeing veterans and doing interviews with them and being that beacon of hope out there. And then every July 3rd, we do what's called a veterans pilgrimage through the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. We've done it for 3 years running. This year, we, of course, had to take a break. But it's a cool thing. Every July 3rd at midnight, we take all the veterans and we walk through the National Cathedral. They get a big tour through the National Cathedral when nobody else is there. And we walk through and play songs of hope. And it's a really, really cool experience. And it's, again, God works in great ways. I wasn't so much a believer until a couple of years ago. And one of those things going through this kind of helped. So it's been awesome and a great experience. And then also, like you said, I have lost my legs. So I've been a beacon out there for those that have lost limbs. And if anybody knows me, I have fun with it because you got to in life. You know, it's a hard time, but I definitely have fun with it. If you've seen it, it's all painted up with the American flag and an eagle, and it gives those hope that that life's not over if you lose something like that. And just to have fun with it. And there's bad days too, but that's part of it, you know. And so just know there's always good days after the bad days.
Absolutely. I was up in Washington D.C. last year for Salute to America when I was running for U.S. Congress, and I wish I would have known that about your program. See, this is why this show is so important. How many people go out with you on that July 3rd, July, and coming into July 4th? Because that's the kind of thing that Veteran Nation and being on NRN Plus and getting this message out there. And Ryan, the founder of NRN Plus, we just had a great conversation yesterday, and we got so many great guests that are coming on. It's going to be such a great thing because this show I really see evolving. I've been, when you have a passion for something, and you see the look in somebody's eyes. A lot of people, you talk about losing your leg a little bit there, but a lot of people don't realize pain management. I had 2 traumatic brain injuries in the military, and I have a lot of migraines. You don't see it on the outside, but that stuff's really debilitating.
It is. Well, to answer your first question, the first year there was maybe 10 of us. Second year was about 20 to 30. This year we had about 50. So it's been, or not this year, but the year before, it was about 50 of us. So it's been evolving, it's been growing and getting the thing out there. But yes, I mean, it's open to anybody and everybody. And then not only that, you've probably seen one of the most spectacular fireworks shows if you're into that, them being at the nation's capital. I mean, I tend to not care too much about any of that stuff, but it is a great thing. And yes, if anybody, again, check out Vet Church and Matt Williams is his name, retired Army chaplain. You can find his stuff there, or you can follow me and we go into that. But it is a great program and it's very inspiring. Like I said, it's been growing over the years. So that's what's really cool about that. So even more people, I mean, when me and Matt had first devised to put this kind of thing together, we want to see as many as we could get there. I mean, we want to pack it out. So we'll see how it goes. Now the second question about losing the leg and everything, it's tough. I try to remind myself to be humble about it because there's brothers and sisters that didn't come home. But there is a lot of pain there. There's, like I said, there's a lot of bad days. I still have nerve pain. I've just literally the other day broke my 12th foot. I've been through 12 feet in 4 years already. I'm rough on them. You got to have fun with it. I still like to be active, play volleyball, play sports, be in the water, go swimming, and stuff like that. So it's an ever evolving thing, but there's a lot that isn't seen that people don't see because I try and put on the best face I can and be strong. And there are some close friends that see me when I'm frustrated and want to throw the leg across the room. It's cool. Anyway, but the PTSD and all the silent stuff, I've been working on a song that says I lost more than what you could see. I had a wife, a kids, a family, and there's all that stuff in the back. And that's what people don't talk about. And don't let a lot of people know that sometimes we keep it all in, but it needs to be known and it needs to be talked about to be let it known it's okay to talk about it. It doesn't make us any weaker or any more or anything else. It's to hopefully talk about it because I've had, unfortunately, more brothers and sisters commit suicide that didn't want to talk and have hard times dealing with it. And I'm tired of losing them that way. So, and I'm sure as most people out here are. So
absolutely. It makes me sick to my stomach. I really believe in the motto, leave no man or woman behind. And it really resonates, especially in today's time frame with everything that's going on. Our Constitution, America's under attack. I grew up in the inner city. I grew up really tough. I had to, in group homes and foster homes. My father tried to kill me as a kid, and he was old school, hardcore military. And when I was in the military, it's interesting because it like toughens you up. It breaks you down and builds you back up, as everybody knows. But a lot of time in the civilian world, people don't really understand that the struggle and what you go through, and you try to relate to that. You just want to be assimilated and come back and be treated kind of normal. But one of the things that really helped me is physical exercise. For a while, when you're just stagnant, it just makes you feel like, you're worthless or you can't get out of bed or you don't feel like getting out of bed. But, physical activity for all of our listeners, that's something that, I encourage people to do. It really helped with my disability. It really helped, to transform my mind and, deal with anxiety and depression. Because I think a lot of people that are out there that are dealing with TBIs or PTSD, or, were in combat, or, even if they were training for combat, anything that, people went through, you never know somebody's story. But one of the things that, another thing besides physical exercise was country music. So it's funny that I met you in Alabama, and I've seen like every country music artist. I love country. I just, I've been to Nashville a lot, and I see you in Nashville doing great things, singing at the Ryman, and I think that would be great. But
I actually
what's
moved up
your
to Nashville a couple months ago. I wasn't a big fan of Nashville, but it is great for roots music, and I will be there again. Yeah, and music, that's, if I could stress anything else, I'm a big advocate. Not only do I play music, but music was the only constant thing my whole life. And so that was a way for me to release that anxiety and any of that stuff, not even just playing it, but listening to it. So, and like you said, everybody has got to find their niche, or something that gives them back that calm. And sometimes it's hard, but don't stop searching until you find it. Like you said, I tried to take my life. I pulled the trigger twice in a row, and a song came on the radio, and the words to it spoke to me at that time. And that's when I went and got help from the VA and said, what the hell am I doing? So, and that's where I'm at. I know that I'll never get that low again. And now my job, and what I think God has set out for me to do, is reach out to those that were in the same spot I was. And at the time I was very angry, and why am I going through all this? But I believe he put me through it to be able to talk to others that are going through it, or be able to recognize it and be out there. And so again, it is crazy how we met, and maybe this is the reason why. And I don't have any shame about talking about what I did or didn't do. And so that's where it took a pretty hard strike for me to figure that out. So
well,
just hoping that
I really believe in authentic leadership model, and that's what I share with people. When I wrote my book, Bridging the Gap from Soldier to Civilian, a roadmap to success for veterans, it deals with getting your mental health together. It's really important. A lot of people don't understand that our VA healthcare system needs a lot of work. A lot of these things that I'm really passionate about, when you share it with other people and you've actually gone through it, it really means the world to them, because sometimes you try to talk to somebody and it's like you can't relate. But as soon as you meet another veteran, we can talk. But we aren't in a little silo. We're one of 100 million. I mean, we're few and far in between, and unless they see something on physical on the outside, they don't know that you're a veteran or not. And a lot of people are like, oh well, so what, you served. And so I think changing the culture and people understanding is really important. But really, there's a lot of veterans out there that need to hear your story, Justin. Whether you had a drug, for me, I saw growing up in my childhood about, the drugs my dad did and the things he did with after the military, that I never wanted that for myself, but, a lot of people out there, have turned to substance abuse, and maybe they need to hear your story.
And I'll be honest with you, I was one of them. Like I said, I kind of grew up a lot the same you did. My mother was an extreme drug abuser, and I thought the same thing. But then, I went to war, came home, and I'm not talking any crap on the VA, but they need some help. And at that time, I turned to other things to try and make life all right. And it was substance abuse, both in alcohol and drugs. And I thank the Lord every day I'm clean from it. But there's some other veterans that go to that stuff. And they, when I was going through the mental health part of it, all they want to do was give me pill after pill. And finally, I got to a point where I just said, I've had enough. I lost my mom when she was 49 years old. You could look at her and could swore she was about 70, and she was just heavy on drugs. And I thought to myself at one point, like, well, you know what? I've had enough of this. I've got a lot of life to live. And unfortunate that the VA, I get it. And that there's times I get mad, but like you said, the best we could do is reach out to people and try and go from there and let them know that they're not alone. And yeah, I've lived it more than most. And that hits hard, because again, I don't try and boast out there that I was out there doing drugs all the time and this and that. Things happen, and it's the past, and I had to move on from it. And now I talk about it openly, and I don't want nobody's sympathy. It's because I want other people to hear the story, and hopefully they could get help, because maybe they're not reaching out.
I mean, that's the whole thing, is right now there's probably a lot of vets out there that are going through a similar situation. My father died at 52, and he died of cancer, and the drugs just destroyed him. It destroyed my family. I mean, so many negative impacts. But there are people out there that really need to understand that, look, even when these things happen in your life, what I try to do in my mission is give people hope. I feel like life is a blessing. And
Yes.
sometimes it's hard for us to understand that. We're going through the things that we've gone through, and life isn't fair. A lot of times, you just got to persevere and you got to be resilient. But sometimes you wake up and you don't feel like doing that. And there's vets out there who may have, taken their own life, or like in your circumstance, you try to do it, but God, like, I just believe God's love is bigger than that. And obviously your life is really valuable. And I'm proud of you as a human being. But there's other veterans out there that need you. And so your music and going through that process, why don't you talk about your process that you go through to get what you've gone through and put it into music, and how it's helping you heal. And then, like myself, I heard you in Alabama. I'm in Alabama a couple weeks ago, and I hear you, and it's just like, man, I just, I love you, man. I think the world of you, because the world needs more of us out here to connect the dots together.
Yeah. So my process for that was, again, songwriting is very personal. And you'll have a lot of people that get up there. I mean, you listen to music on the radio all the time and all that. And yeah, a lot of them wrote those songs, but some of them didn't. And some of these songs are more intimate. I mean, Darkest Days is all about being messed up on drugs and in a very dark place. And so my process of writing is, I pick up a guitar and I start writing. And it not only, like you said, it helps me heal to be able to get it out into music for myself. But then it's also kind of a two-edged sword in a sense, because every time I sing that song, I kind of have to put myself back in that type of mind frame to be able to express it when I'm singing it. And actually, the time that you were in Alabama, and this is what I love about with music. Yes, I'm a vet, and I'm very advocate for the vets, but I believe in one love for everybody. We had just lost a great musician that week to suicide, and so that song kind of also hit home for that too. So that process again for it's, you got to get it out there. And I mean, I just played the song again last night. I was playing a show last night, and I had this girl come up to me in tears. And she was a vet, and she was like, man, I needed to hear that at this point in time. And I was like, and it kind of still takes me back. And I always try and remain humble to the fact that it is what it is. At the same time, I come home at night and I thank God that song maybe touched them and kept them from going to where they are, and maybe give them an outlet, and it don't have to be music for them, but it's a process for me that it gets it out of my mind. Cause I believe in our mind is our worst enemy, but it gets it out and relates. And then when I'm out there playing it, come to find out, well, just like I always knew, I wasn't alone. There's other people, and maybe that's the other part. It lets them know that they're not alone. And like I said, I don't know if one day one of my songs I'll be playing on a stage in front of 50,000 people, but if I at least reach one, that's all I ever wanted to do. And maybe that one could save another one. And then lo and behold, maybe we save each other at the end of the day.
You know what, man? I'm just, like I said, I just think your story is amazing. And I just think of Lee Brice, My Truck, and that song. And just, there's so much. Country music does so much. Everybody has their own likes and genres and things like that. But
Yes.
I look at a lot of people that have done very patriotic country songs, Lee
Yep.
Greenwood, things like that. And I think that you have that potential to do that. And obviously your heart's in it, and God, has a reason for your life. It's really
Yeah.
valuable. But who are some of your country music inspirations?
So I love all genre music. I grew up listening to classic rock and all that, but for country, mine would be Aaron Lewis, which used to be the lead singer of Stained. He's probably one of my biggest idols. You ever listen to him sing some of his songs, you could feel that he lived that life, and that's what I love about him. And then, of course, Chris Stapleton is also just a phenomenal story. If you ever actually look into his story, he did not like being on stage singing at all. And now he's one of the most awesomest performers you could ever meet. And he's also one of the best songwriters out there that I've probably ever met. I've been fortunate to met both these guys. But I've also been great to be around songwriters. So down here, I actually live in Pensacola, Florida. You see me on the Alabama side, which, is just a line right there. But the guy that wrote Old Red for Blake Shelton lives down here. You got a guy that wrote Baby's Gotten Good at Goodbye for George Strait lives down here. So I've learned a lot in the 2.5 years of doing this, and met a lot of songwriters that have carried me along the way and been awesome. So I'm a lover of all music. I listen to everything, but country music, it's definitely got more of the feels to it. It's
yeah,
easier for me to get that slower stuff out and put your heart into it, I believe. But everybody listens to, like you said, their own type of genre of music. And so whatever they listen to, I say just find something and really, even if it's just to breathe, it's a great outlet.
you know what? I grew up on, country rock, and then I grew up inner city, so like Tupac, stuff like that. And then in the military, it was always, like Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against
Oh
the
yeah.
Machine, Stain,
Yep.
Puddles of Mud, Linkin Park. I love Linkin Park. Here goes a tragic story. Linkin Park,
Yep.
I had tickets to see them in DC, and Pennington, he had a laryngitis in the throat, so they canceled the show. So I never
Yeah.
got to see him. And then, he went and killed himself. He committed suicide. So
Yep.
suicide is a major problem. I just wrote an article through NRN Plus on veteran suicide. All the watchers out there, listeners, please go out there and check that article out. I really believe that, we can do something to change this rhetoric in this country where, people talk about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. I mean, all lives matter. I mean, that's the thing. But veterans' lives matter. I don't hear nothing out here like veterans' lives matter. I mean, it's just like, come on, let's just, where's that patriotism? That's what we need to bring back in this country. And, that's something you can do through your music is bring that patriotism back. And I think people respond to that very well, regardless of political party. There's a lot of people that hate this country. There's people that love this country. I don't know how you can hate freedom. You and I, we serve downrange in third world countries. It's not a fun place,
No,
being a
it's
slave
not.
or being enslaved. I mean, that's not a good look. And, some people may want to go to socialism or, I don't think that's good for this country. I think our freedoms are there. We need to have our Second Amendment. We need to be able to preserve the Constitution. But at the end of the day, we're all people, and having that freedom, I think, is really important. And being able to listen to music, connect with you. How can people go to your show? How can they hear you? Where's your tour schedule? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right now, like I said, with everything with COVID's going down, as far as tours go, we're pretty much shut down. But if you want to see me perform, I'm playing down here in Pensacola, Florida, and down on Perdido Key, places like the world famous Floribama. I've only released a single so far, but you could go look up Justin Touchette on any music platform, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, all that kind of good stuff, and just type in my name, and it'll bring up the single "Broken Hearted Fool." We will be releasing the EP album hopefully by October. Again, with all the COVID, even the studios and stuff, and we're just trying to play around it. But, you can go on my Facebook. I didn't know how to post a Facebook link. I'm not that tech savvy. But you just put in Justin R. Touchette on Facebook, add me as a friend. Shoot me a message, let me know you heard me on this network and everything. I've got tons of friend requests, people I don't know, but I try and add everybody and all that stuff. But my music's on there. You'll usually see me post or promoting another musician or something like that. And yeah, definitely look forward to hearing from anybody and everybody. And even if it's not about music or if they just want to reach out, please do so. I'm here for vets and anybody. So I really appreciate anybody that wants to talk and yeah, pretty fun time. But right now we're sitting down here in Florida. Soon as like I said, all the COVID stuff stops, I'm going to head to Texas, do a show in San Antonio with a good buddy of mine, then Arizona, and we're going to go up through California. I'm going to take a little bit of me time traveling. I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I've been all over the world, but I ain't really got to see the States. So I'm going to see the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, and do a lot of veteran stops along the way. So again, please look up a group called Vet Church, VET Church on Facebook, and ask to become a member, and one of us will add you, and it's a great time. Matt's an awesome person. He's also another musician. He's a retired Army chaplain, but he says how it is, and that's why I love him. He doesn't hold anything back. You think of chaplain like, oh, this and that. He cusses, and he's a good guy. He's one of my best friends. I've known him probably longer than most, and he's a great guy. Him and his wife, they were literally travel around the States in their minivan last year and lived out of their minivan and just going to help support vets. And that's, I love them to death, and that's what we do. So keep an ear out. We'll be around.
Justin Touche, thank you so much for coming on Veteran Nation with the Sergeant and Skipper on NRN Plus. We can't wait to hear your music and get your message out there. And I can't wait to once you get that EP out there and we get you back on the show too. And thank you for what you're doing for America. And God bless you, man. God bless your family. Thank you.
God bless y'all. Thank y'all so much. It was a great joy. Look forward to doing it again.
Whoa, are you guys seeing this too?
Of course, I have it on my phone. Come check it out.
Wow, that's a big old pig.
Grandpa, record it for me.
I already am, Gabe. You know, pigs aren't the only thing that live out here in the woods. Bigfoot lives here too.
No way.
Grandpa's
Really?
teasing you.
No, I'm not. Here, take these. I'm gonna go back out and get some firewood.
What was that? I don't know. Get the night vision.
Guys, I think I see something.
It's Bigfoot. Zoom in.
Wait a minute. Bigfoot's wearing boots?
It's Grandpa.
Oh man, busted.
Turn your night into day with Binox ATN, the future of optics.
And welcome back to the news segment here on Veteran Nation. We got a couple really good stories here to discuss. The first one is the Air Force Inspector General has determined that Major General Dunlop created a toxic environment in her top secret program that she was working on. Now, Major General Dunlop, she was fired several months ago. And what the IG did was they came in, they investigated, and what they found is that it was commonplace for her to berate and belittle her subordinates. In one case, there was a junior airman who was scolded and grabbed by the hand for a very minor issue. Now, I'm coming at this story as an officer, as a military officer. One thing that's very, very important as an officer is to have empathy, because while you are the leader and you're in charge and you can tell people to do things and they're going to do them, they're going to get the mission done. That's what they do. You have to also be protective of that, because you can affect them, you can affect their families, you can affect a lot of things. I had a major who taught me many years ago, if you want to keep your morale good, there's 3 things that you don't mess with. You don't mess with their time, you don't mess with their money, and you don't mess with their child. He said, you don't do those 3 things, you don't mess with those. He's like, you can tell them to move mountains, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it happily. Which I have found that was some very good advice. And, it's all in remembering that these are people with families. These are people who are doing things very selflessly. And, well, when you're higher rank, it comes with privilege, but there's also got to be some respect there going back and forth. So that's really what the IG was looking at here, was there that respect? And now that apparently it was a toxic environment. On to our next story, the SpaceX. They are turning their Texas launch site into a resort, some type of resort town. I know a lot of our viewers are interested in space exploration, and I don't know if this will work. I wish them the best. I mean, Texas is a good state, has some good weather most of the year, so remains to be seen if that'll be a successful venture for them. The Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL, they have announced that there will be fans at their games. From what I've seen, this appears to be the second NFL team to do that. The Dallas Cowboys said that they would have fans. The one team that won't be affected, the Cleveland Browns. They never have fans. Just got to put a little dig in there to my fellow Ohioans. California is expecting rolling blackouts with the heat right now. And this is interesting because we have a lot of military and veterans who there's a lot of military bases here in California. They stayed here. They're living their lives here. And now they're being affected by rolling blackouts. One thing I found very interesting is that California, it's one of the leading states for solar power. There's like 748 different solar power plants here. Of all the power generated, 14% of it comes from solar power. Now, this is the time of year where, you get the most sun, where it's going to be, the most effective, but yet we're having rolling blackouts. Really, it shows that a lot of these renewable resources are not constant. So they're not going to be an effective replacement. Quite honestly, what we should be looking at doing is moving to nuclear power, because with nuclear power, it's clean, it's also completely sustainable. That's what they've done in Europe, and it's served them quite well. So, it's one of those things that we keep an eye on here because there's a lot of people affected. So be ready for that. The military is looking to slash its healthcare budget by about $2.2 billion. Interesting thing about that is there is 9.5 million military and families who are on the TRICARE, which is the military's healthcare arm. I think what we're going to see with this, I think this is going to be a much bigger story down the road. I think what you're going to see is the military installations that have medical facilities will only end up being for military. Maybe they'll still do some family things like prenatal care, but for the most part, you're going to see families. It happened with retirees. A lot of retirees have been told they cannot come on base for medical facilities anymore. So I think you're going to see that with families as well. I think that's how they're gonna cut that budget. And quite honestly, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think most times out in town, anyone who's been to TRICARE and been given Motrin knows that you're gonna get way better treatment out in town. So I think that ultimately could be a good thing and a good cost savings. We'll see. The Army and Navy, okay, they're doing something new. And this is actually going to be a very big story in my opinion. What they're going to do is they're going to ban Twitch, and they're starting already. Now, this is a big story because everyone I think understands why they're doing it. They're doing it because of OPSEC. They don't want things that are happening on base getting out into the ether and making its way onto the internet where our enemies can see it. The problem with that is a lot of the young military members coming in, they are gamers. And whenever you have gaming, it's just natural right now. You're going to have online streaming. This is what the kids are doing. This is going to be a big thing. I don't know if they're going to be able to quite hold back the floodgates, if you know what I mean. I think it's going to get to the point where there's just so many that they can't stop it. So keep an eye on that. I got a feeling that'll be a much bigger story as we go forward. I wish the Army and the Navy luck in what they're planning on doing. I understand it. I just don't know if they're going to be effective. For those of you who are watching, here's what I'm going to say to you right now. There's going to be a link, I believe it's on this side, for a new product, and this is a great product. It's through ATN. This is their 4K Ultra HD binos, and the cool thing about this is it does day and it also does night, and it's got a rangefinder. It's got it also comes with a 64 gigabyte SD drive. So really cool. This thing has 4 times to 16 times magnification. It records in HD, gives you bright colors, gives you that good night vision scene. So if you have a neighbor who doesn't always close her curtains, this could be for you. Also, if you have a teenage daughter who's starting to date, this might be the thing for you. But if you go to the link, you're going to get, I think it's $100 off. And it's a really great deal, really something that I could see myself using, a lot of other veterans. You know, this is some of the cool gear that we like. Also, I'm going to give a shout out to a small business owner right now, to David Keck, who runs Keck Investigations. That's down in Tampa, Florida. And what these guys do is, if you use your binos and you think, you know, there's something funny going on with somebody, they can do investigations, they do background checks, they do counter surveillance, they do criminal investigations, domestic investigations, accident investigations, process serving. These guys do a lot of stuff down there. So if you're down in the Tampa Bay area and you need a private investigator, these are definitely some guys to check out. If you're not in the Tampa Bay area, I would give them a call anyway, see if they can help you in your area, because they could probably even do some things nationally. I honestly don't know, but I do know that they're down there doing a great job. If you want to contact them, you can look them up online, Keck Investigations. That's Keck Investigations. You can also call them at 727-254-1994. Again, that's 727-254-1994. So thank you very much for your support of the show, and best of luck to you gentlemen down there. Also, I do want to shout out, if you are enjoying the show and you like the content that we put out, go to nrnplus.com/VN, and that's our landing page. If you go there, you can become a member. I believe it's $6 a month, or $7 a month, and you can become a member of NRN, which has some great content, some really cool people who are doing other streams. But we're doing things that are going to be specific to our show. So we're going to be doing videos, we're going to be doing extra content, and some really cool things, and things that can really help you. So please, if you can, become a subscriber there. You'll be supporting the show. You can contact us directly. You know, tell us who you'd like us to have on, or what topics you think you'd like us to get on. Also, if that's not your thing, but you still want to talk about the show, go into our Facebook group. It's Veteran Nation. It's right there in Facebook, and you can come in and you can talk with the other fans that are in there. We're in there, so if you have any questions, you can definitely pose them to us. We'll be posting a lot of information and also links to the show, so if you're on the run, you can do it that way. But this has been Veteran Nation News. Thank you very much.
Whoa, are you guys seeing this too?
Of course, I have it on my phone. Come check it out.
Wow, that's a big old pig.
Grandpa, record it for me.
I already am, Gabe. You know, pigs aren't the only thing that live out here in the woods. Bigfoot lives here too.
No way.
Grandpa's
Really?
teasing you.
No, I'm not. Here, take these. I'm gonna go back out and get some firewood.
What was that? I don't know. Get the night vision.
Guys, I think I see something.
It's Bigfoot. Zoom in.
Wait a minute. Bigfoot's wearing boots?
It's Grandpa.
Oh man, busted.
Turn your night into day with Binox. ATN, the future of optics.
truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. That all changes starting right here and right now.
Good evening, America. Thank you so much for coming back for the second segment of Veteran Nation with the Sergeant, myself, Sergeant Bloomling, and the Skipper. I'll let him introduce himself. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. You know, it's a fantastic day out here at my compound. So I'm living life.
Yeah, we had a great interview earlier with Justin. I know before you got into your compound there, you were able to listen to some of it, man. Justin's such a great guy, and I think it's great.
Yeah, that sounded, it's amazing talking to people about their story. And, he's got just an amazing one. And, your heart goes out to him, but you're also glad that it's now turned into such a success story. I really can't wait to hear some of his songs.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just let God take over. And from there, that's the whole power of this show. I want to impact millions of vets and their families. And, I salute them every single day. God bless them. Thank you for their service. Not just in words, we got to get out here and there's great people that we're getting on the show. Today, we had a little schedule change today to all of our watchers and viewers. So we're going to have a former Navy SEAL, Dr. Adams, coming on tonight. And he's a friend of mine. He's in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's been on my podcast and radio show, and he was embedded with the SEALs. He's a doctor and just a great guy and doing great things in North Carolina. So we'll get him on in a few minutes. He has to fire for effect and get into battle position. You know what I mean? So we threw him a curveball, but that's cool though. That's how veterans are. We adapt and overcome, right, brother?
Yeah, we keep our head on a swivel. We know how to roll with the punches, move on in. Okay, this changed. Let's move in the next thing. They always say your plan never survives the first 15 minutes. And I'll tell you, every experience I had that was 100% true. You're always changing things on the fly. So, that's the way it goes.
Hey, this shows a great example of how Army and Marines and a reflection of the Navy, how we work together. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we haven't tried to kill each other or anything. So I think our audience can probably appreciate that, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of things with joint inter-service military. And, it was just fascinating because while we all, we raise our right hands, we all, give the oath, we also have our own little quirks and our own little things. And, we make fun of each other. We do that a lot. But I'll tell you, at the end of the day, We're all professionals, and when it's time to get the mission done, that's what we do.
Absolutely. While I wait for Dr. Adams to get on, I remember we go to the field and, we come back and we had a lot of, I tell you what, a lot of people, Justin was from Alabama, right? Or he's in Alabama on the Florida-Alabama line, which is such a cool place. I mean, the Florida-Alabama line, it's not just the song that's Kenny Chesney put out there, the Florida-Alabama line, but man, that bar down there and just, it's amazing. But we used to come back from the field in the military, and they used to write on people's card, "Roll Tide, roll." So Ohio State and Alabama, man, I tell you, if you're a veteran and you're an alum of either of those schools, man, they're hardcore. And when I was in the military, I was just like, man, that was obnoxious. I felt bad for people. They come back and "Roll Tide, roll" is written on their cars. I mean, that's just hilarious.
Oh yeah, there's certain things that you get people from all over the country, all over the world, actually. I mean, I went to a boot camp with a guy who had just got off a boat from Cuba like 3 months prior, could barely speak English, but he knew he wanted to be a U.S. Marine. And, everyone brings those things, with them in the military. And, it's just such a great melting pot, because I'll tell you, I met people from places around the world I knew I would never go, from cultures that I probably would never have interacted with had I not joined the military.
Yeah, that's true. I got a quick story. I was running
Democrats
for
have
Congress,
divided
and I'm
America.
going to run
So just smashing the windows.
They've combined forces with news and social media for years.
Of fake news.
I wish the news could be real. I wish it could be honest. I wish it weren't corrupt.
Bias inside Facebook discriminating against Republicans and conservatives.
Very anti-MAGA.
They have lied, cheated, and bullied anyone that doesn't support them. If you're American, stand for morality, truth, our country. Democrats call you racist in every hateful name they can. They don't care about truth or facts if it hurts their feelings. They manipulate words and emotions. They've created chaos. The future of Democrats is no future at all.
Do nothing Democrats have done nothing for the black community. But enough is enough.
If you're tired of hate, division, and chaos, there's only one choice. Vote Trump in 2020. Want a good and prosperous future for you and your family? Believe in life, values, faith, liberty, prosperity, unity, and love? It's simple. Vote Trump. Don't let the Democrats control you any longer. Learn the truth. Know the truth. Trump 2020. This ad is not endorsed by the GOP or Trump.
What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. That all changes, starting right here and right now.
Veteran Nation with the sergeant and the skipper. We had some transition tonight. This is an interesting show, but it's all good. We find a way to adapt and overcome. That's how we do it. I was an NCO in the military and the Army, and that's what we do. We adapt and overcome. And I'm so grateful that my friend, Dr. Robert Adams, who's a former Navy SEAL and just a great guy, served in this country very proudly and with distinguished honors. And now he's doing great things in the civilian side. I love special operators. I love grunts. I love people that get down and dirty, but also love everyone who served in the military and their families. Thank you for their service. And thank you, Doctor, for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Michael.
So why don't you give the listeners a little bit background about you, and why don't you explain some of that insignia on the back wall back there? It's pretty cool stuff you got back there.
So, my background is somewhat unique in that I am a third-generation Naval Academy graduate, fifth-generation career military, and my grandfather was a three-star admiral superintendent of the Naval Academy. But when I graduated from the Naval Academy, I wanted to go into the SEAL training. It was not available to me. It was available to my classmate, Eric Olson, who went on to be our first four-star Navy SEAL. Good friend, good story. But I drove a destroyer for a year and a half, and then they let me into SEAL training when I went and joined Bud's Class 81, which was in 1975. The result being we had 70 men in our SEAL class that started, and 11 of us that graduated, 8 officers, of which 3 of us graduated. And we're all very close today. As a matter of fact, you see by the bald head and gray hair, that was 45 years ago. We just had our 45th reunion online in a Zoom conference similar to this. Everybody came. All 8 of the surviving members of my class were there. We've lost 3 men, and their 3 widows joined us. 2 of our instructors were there. It was just a wonderful, wonderful event. But what I did is I did my job as an officer in the SEAL teams. Ended up being the class officer for my SEAL team class. Went into East Coast and West Coast SEAL teams. And stayed with them until 1987, active and reserve. Got a master's in business administration, and came back after my first few months on the job as an MBA. And went, I hate this job, can't do it anymore. And my wife goes, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to go back into the SEAL teams. And I was a reservist at the time, not on active duty. And we called the SEAL teams and went, no war's going on, Doc, got no need for you. I would have Doc then. Bob, no need for you. Stay there. We'll call you when we need you. So life goes on, and I come back and say, this MBA thing ain't going to work out. It's all about, dollars and no morals. And I miss the guys. So she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, this is going to sound silly, but I want to go to medical school at 36 years old. So this conversation happened 3 years before the reality occurred. And at 36 years old, I entered Wake Forest Medical School as a brand new second lieutenant in the Army, because the Navy offered me a 3-year scholarship and the Army offered me a 4-year scholarship. And I went, I got 2 kids, got to make the money decision here. And I took the Army scholarship, took off, now wait for this is really cool, took off my Navy commander's hat, which is an 05 in the military, and became an Army second lieutenant, started all over again to go to med school. Which, by the way, was a great deal for me because they paid for 4 years of Wake Forest University Medical School. Ended up doing my residency in Washington State at the best family practice program in the Army at the time. And, the rest was history, because what happened, I graduated, asked for duty where I could jump out of airplanes. Because, I've been a parachutist in the Navy SEALs, and I've been on the Navy jump team doing free fall demonstrations. And the Army goes, well, we only have one place in the Army that we jump out of airplanes, and that's Fort Bragg. I went, send me. So we ended up in Fort Bragg, where I was lucky enough to spend the rest of my Army career there until I retired in 2006. And the fun part of this story is an Army uniform is allowed to display major qualification badges from other services. So I had my Navy SEAL patch on my left breast, in an Army uniform. And people come and look at that and go, what the heck is that? I go, well, you don't see that in the Army very much. That's Navy SEAL insignia. So about 6 months after I showed up in Fort Bragg, my SEAL buddies there grabbed me. We're jumping out of airplanes together, free fall mostly. And the Delta Force guys come knocking on my door. And I go, hello. Sir, we just want to ask you if that thing on your uniform is real, because if it is, we want you to come play with us. And I said, well, it is, and don't bother me, I'm busy. So, what? Because I had just graduated my residency training. And the bottom line was I needed to do a lot more doctoring. So 2 years later, after I said, why don't you check back with me in 2 years, they knocked on my door and went, how about now? And I went, now's good, let's go play. And so I ended up being the command surgeon for the Army's Delta Force for 4 years, did rapid deployment missions with them, had a wonderful time doing it. And when that tour was over, I went back to my job on Fort Bragg again as the commander of the 82nd Airborne Division Clinic, and where I was jumping out of airplanes with the 82nd Airborne. And if you know your history, that's about the time that Desert Storm 2 launched. And I get a call from my 82nd Airborne guys going, want to go to Iraq? I go, do I have a choice? They went, no. Well, then where are we going? So I ended up going to Iraq with the 82nd Airborne in 2003 and 2004. And I mean, you asked for the story, so I'm telling it.
No, I love it. This is great.
Yeah, awesome.
Every time I meet you, I get more of the story. So this is great for us.
So it was an interesting experience for me, because I am not ashamed to tell you that I had just made full bird colonel, because at Delta I was a major, then lieutenant colonel, and when I left, I had been selected for colonel. So when they asked me to go to Iraq with them, I go, what are you going to do with a full bird colonel in the 82nd Airborne? And they went, well, let's think about that. And I said, can I have this job? And they went, well, that's just a doctor's job. I said, well, that's what I am. I'm a doctor now, and I would really like to have it. So they gave it to me. And as a commander of the medical unit in Habaniya, which is the middle of bad guy country, I was taking care of all the special operations people, all of the active operating people, Marines and everybody. And the reason I say I'm not ashamed, I wanted that job because it was the last time that a doctor was going to be able to go to war for 6 months. All the other jobs after that were going to be 1 year long. And I went, give me the 6-month job. And so I went over there, did an amazing, or had an amazing experience, because we rolled into the very, very first part of the war. And I had to take over a bombed out airfield in Habaniya, where all we had was stone buildings with no windows or doors. And they said, turn it into a clinic and an emergency room. Oh, okay, I can do that. And we hired local contractors, and we took these bombed out buildings and turned them into a clinic and a emergency room with mass casualty capability. And sadly, I will report, we had to deal with mass casualties while I was there. But it was without a doubt the most amazing experience I've ever had as a doctor, prior to that time or ever since, because, medicine in a war zone sucks. There's no other way to say it, because you deal with the worst, things that you can imagine. And my special operations time was gone. So I'm dealing with, young medics at 17 and 18 and 19 years old in a war zone, having to go out on, overnight missions. And I had a young kid who was the exact same age of my son, who kept saying, Doc, it's my turn. I want to go on the next mission. And I went, no, not yet, because I kept thinking, I'm not going to send you to war at 18 years old if I can avoid it. And about that time, a helicopter was hit with with a rocket-propelled grenade, only less than a mile from our compound, and I had to launch all the medics, and he went with them. And I gathered my docs, and we prepared for a mass casualty. And about half the people on the helicopter were killed. The other half came as casualties, and we took great care of them. When this young 18-year-old came back, he walked by me with this 1,000-mile stare. And I go, young man, I'm not going to use his name. How are you? How you doing? He just stops and looks at me. He had to refocus and figure out who I was. And he goes, hey, Doc, that was not what I expected. And I've never forgotten that, because it's just this 1,000-mile stare of a kid who suddenly had to do his job up close and personal with multiple casualties. And it didn't turn out to be as fun as he thought it was going to be. So
no, it's not. It's not. It's not all GI Joes that people see and they glorify in movies and on TV. It's not Rambo. You're out there with a knife and you're cutting people down. It doesn't work that way. This stuff is real world, and that's why we started the show on New Right Network Plus, NRN Plus, to get this information out there. I mean, your story is just extraordinary. I mean, every time I talk with you, it just it's really an extraordinary thing. Now, my dad was in the Navy and Army too. So, and back then it was more, a common thing. Now I think it's a little bit less common, but it does happen where people serve in different branches. But the experiences you have and the knowledge base and everything you did, and just, it's really commendable. But, the great thing about it is that people need to hear those stories. People need to understand and relate that, in a time of war, like they call it the fog of war, as everybody knows, the civilians may not understand that, but in the fog of war, that's why you have that training, and you're trained to do a certain job. And when you go out there and you execute that job, sometimes it might not be as the training, you know what I mean? You're not just dragging people back and, doing a fireman's carry, you might be bringing back, whatever's left of that human being. And I think it's a great honor for this country, and it's something that we need to continue on. It's not all the glory all the time. Sometimes it's a lot of the wear and tear and the emotional, the mental. What's the mental aspect that you've seen since you've got out of the military, doctor, and coming back here on our veterans? Because you're a great advocate. We've talked about this a lot. You're doing a lot of things in North Carolina. Thank you for what you're doing for our veterans, because we need these stories out there.
So you fed me the perfect lead in, because the stories do need to be told. And I just published my second book. See if you can see it here. There it is, Swords and Saints, A Doctor's Journey. It's coming out an audiobook in 5 days from now on August 25th. This book tells the story of that young man I just told you about. And it's such a moving experience to write down what happened. And that's why I wrote it. The story needed to be told. And I told his story of heroism. I told the stories of heroism of the doctors that worked with me. And, I look back and I go, oh my God, I just can't believe the people did what they did. The one chapter that really echoes what you're saying is, we're not trained as a doctor at war, to fight a wartime environment. We're taught to, go into work and come home at 5 o'clock and be done. But when you suddenly find yourself in the middle of a war zone, and amputations and major injuries are coming in, and gunshot wounds, it's oh no, I've got the knowledge, I don't know how to apply it. Let's learn on the spot. And one of my chapters in that book talks about a 2 o'clock in the morning phone call. I'm in this, bombed out building that we've rebuilt into a clinic. And I get a call saying, hey, Doc, we got an ambulance en route to your location with a multiple gunshot injury in it. And he's a bad guy. We shot him, but you need to save him. And I had to really process that. Roger that. I got it. I'm a doc. We're Americans. This is what we do. And I called real quick. The ambulance was 45 minutes out. And I sent my runner. I said, go back to the bivouac area. Find me one doctor and one medic. We got an injury coming in. Well, guess what happened? The whole staff showed up. The medics came. The doctors came. This was real world stuff that we needed to deal with. And the guy comes in. His arm is amputated and held on by a tourniquet and a piece of skin. He's got 3 entry wounds in his chest and abdomen and only 1 exit wound. And the IV that had been put on at his site of injury wasn't working. And we needed to get fluid into this kid, and in this guy, into the bad guy. So, I was lucky enough to have a pediatrician as one of my doctors, and I said, hey, you can put an IV in the scalp of a little baby, put an IV in this man that we can give him morphine and fluids. I'm going to make the story real shorter than it's in my book, but he goes, I can't do it. He tried, he couldn't do it. And I thought, what else do I know? Well, when I was with Delta Force, I was trained in something called advanced trauma life support. And we trained on real tissue animals at the time. Pigs and goats were our subjects. And we learned how to put what's called a venous cut down. You dissect down through the body, the leg, you find a vein, you insert an IV in it, you tie it off, and you go. And I looked at my medic, I go, run back to the bed that I was sleeping in, grab me the book that's there called Advanced Trauma Life Support, bring it here, lay it on his leg. And I really looked at the book, and I made a cut where his ankle was. I found the vein, I put an IV in it, it worked. We're all high-fiving ourselves. We got him morphine, we got him fluids, we got him in an ambulance, and we got him to the next level of care, and he lived. He didn't save the arm, but he lived. And, whoever told me during residency that would ever happen? Wow.
That's extraordinary. It really is. You know what, Doc?
Take a sip from my glass of wine, by the way.
Oh, sounds good. Hey, we know how Navy SEALs roll. It's all good. We got a Marine Skipper's a Marine, so we got some good mix here of people on the show. So one of the things too, one of my certifications was being a combat lifesaver, and as an NCO, that was actually one of the things that I'm really proud of. Is that, hey, if something happens and a trauma happens, I know how to take care of my battle buddy. I know how to take care of my troops. I know how to bring, if someone's injured, I know how to take action, give them an IV like you talked about. I received that specialized training, and I think it's important, that you have that. Not everybody's a doctor, or, you always need the medics. You're like, medic, we need your help. But it's like, sometimes the grunts are out there and they're able to do that job too. So I think that's really important. And, the mental health aspect of it, what are some of the things you're doing now? And I'll let Skipper, chime in here. What's some of the things you're doing now back here on the mental health side of it? Because I think that's important when people go through that trauma and they come back here, whether it's physical trauma or you see something, or you have trauma of, oh, well, that happened to somebody in my platoon, but it didn't happen to me. There's a lot of that happens as well.
So let me answer that question this way. You asked me what that was. That's my Navy SEAL insignia up there. And underneath it in the triangle is the Delta Force insignia that was made for me by one of my medics. And I'm so proud of it that I've got. And, oh my goodness, what a wonderful man this is. He's done these great things. He was a SEAL, he was a Delta Force, he was a doctor. I said, but when I came back from the war in 2004, I was not a whole man. I was dealing with emotions and sadness and things that I couldn't deal with. I went to my own doctor one day and said, "Can you tell me why I can't feel happy anymore?" And he goes, "We should talk, because this is one of the symptoms of PTSD." And first responders in today's civilian world that are dealing with trauma and the death of children. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the news, front page news today was a 21-year-old girl who was at Bojangles and somebody shot her in the head. And the first responders got to deal with this death and this unexplainable loss. And I am not ashamed to say that I love treating and helping people with PTSD, because I'm a co-sufferer. I don't feel like my trauma was as bad as the people that deal with surviving 12 gunshot wounds themselves and going on to do their job, but it's still traumatic. And our soldiers deal with this at every level, and they bring home that feeling of helplessness with them. And so I look for that. I look for that really hard. And I'm gonna deviate to a story that is also in the new book that embarrasses me to this day. When I first got to Fort Bragg as a young doctor, I was a fisherman. I've always been a fisherman, and I wanted to find places to fish. And I put an ad in the sporting goods section saying, I can't find places to fish. Will somebody help me learn where to go? Well, I get a call from an old Vietnam veteran. He calls me, goes, hey, you that guy that put that ad in the paper about fishing? Yeah, that's the funniest damn ad I ever read in my entire life. I fish every day. When do you want to go? Saturday, pick you up at 6:30. So we became fishing buddies. I was at Delta Force at the time, and he was in Vietnam and it had a horrible tour, had a horrible experience. I didn't know it because I would be fishing with him. I'd say, let me tell you about my SEAL time. Let me tell you my Delta Force time. He said, I was in Vietnam. That's all I ever got out of him. Then one day, out of the blue, 5 years after I've been fishing with this guy, he goes, so Doc, you were in the Army, right? Yeah, I think I've mentioned that a few times. Could you tell me what this is? And he holds up his Bronze Star certificate with his name, describing him as the sole survivor of his unit as a machine gunner when they got overrun in Vietnam. And I went, wow. Well, Led, sir, his name was Led, this is you. But I don't understand. I don't remember any of this. I went, oh no. Now I understand all these medical problems you've been bringing me the last 6 years that I've been treating like medical problems. You've got severe PTSD. Well, the happy ending is, and I'll make it really short, I called him up and I said, you're entitled to VA benefits and compensation 35 years after the fact. And I gave him the forms to fill out, which he couldn't do. He couldn't even think about it. So I said, time out. I got the forms. Tell me what happened. And after he finished telling me his stories, he's crying. I'm crying. The form's filled out. They sent it in. The VA, 35 years after the fact, gives him 100% disability. And he and his children, his grandchildren, are better today for just somebody saying, oh, we know what happened to you. So, it'll be hidden. It'll show up in the strangest of ways, sometimes decades later, just like this. And, if you know a veteran that's having trouble and he's not strong enough to admit that he's having trouble, get him to a doctor that cares. Send him to me. I'll take care of him.
Absolutely. A lot of things that you touched on there. We're all three of us here. We're all veterans, but we all have a diagnosis of PTSD. And, a couple things that I've noticed is in my case and in so many others, it was another veteran who first said, you need to go talk to somebody because you have PTSD. So that is so common, and the good thing is it's us looking out for us, but we have to constantly be reminded that, even though that person, we know that as a veteran, we might not know their story, but we all know that there are common things that we need to look for. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's so much of what we're trying to do on this show is get people to realize that, hey, it's not a bad thing to ask for help and to go to someone and just say, I trust you. What can you do for me?
Well, yeah, I'll give you a similar, forgive me, Michael, but I have one of my classmates from Navy SEAL training who went through training as an E2, which for those that don't know the military, is about as lowest rank as you can have, and go through any advanced training. And his last tour of duty, he was commanding officer of SEAL Team 8 as a full bird commander selected for captain, and he's having trouble now in his retirement, and I'm trying to help him. And the last phone call I had with me, he said to me, Bob, I'm so embarrassed to ask you for help. And just like you said, don't be embarrassed to ask for help.
Exactly. And mine were 2 TBIs. I don't have PTSD. Mine are I had 2 traumatic brain injuries in the military, but no problem. Thank you for the shout out, Skipper. But a lot of people are dealing with TBIs and PTSD, and it's really difficult. It deals with depression, anxiety, and you talk about mental health. And just because you're going through that doesn't make you a bad person, or that, that's the good thing about being a veteran and helping other veterans. And that's why mentorship is so big. But we also need advocates out there that are fighting in the community every single day. not everybody's on Fox News every day. Not every veteran's in Congress, but there are people out there who want to make extraordinary changes. And that's why I look to God. And I think God puts such an emphasis, like you met that Vietnam veteran, and look at that, and today, we had Justin Touchette on earlier, and I met him in Alabama a couple weeks ago, and he's a country music singer, and he tried to commit suicide and pulled the trigger twice. And there was it didn't fire. What causes that? There's things that happen out here that are miraculous. And I think getting these stories out there are amazing. And your story, Doctor, is definitely amazing. And, I still want to get back to what you're doing now for vets, because, it's extraordinary, but it's like you were meant to be on the show tonight. And, that's how the world works. Sometimes one thing doesn't happen, but something else. So somebody tonight needs to hear what you're doing for veterans now. So why don't you expand on that? Yeah, I know you're writing books. That's how we connected through LinkedIn. I've published 3 books. You've published books. And thank you for what you're doing to help other veterans, because I think that's the most valuable thing that we take away from our military service and our leadership, is to giving back to other people.
Thank you. I spent a part of my afternoon today with the board of directors, of which I am one, of a brand newly opened Veterans Life Center here in the Durham-Raleigh area of North Carolina. We just opened a $9 million facility that is going to house 100 veterans, male and female, and help them transition from wherever they are to wherever they need to be. And this was so funny. It took 10 years to happen, and we kept asking the state of North Carolina to help us. And out of the blue, because of the work of veterans that cared about just exactly what you said, Michael, we need to help. The state of North Carolina said, here's 8 acres of land, $8.9 million, build it. And it opened this month. And we're gonna enroll our first 24 veterans, 12 men and 12 women, on the 1st of September. And it just makes my heart skip a beat when I think about the impossible odds of us having pulled this off, and then did it. And just I want to say thank you to all of the donors that made it happen, because we asked the state and they came through. But operational funds were necessary, and we needed private donors. We had a local credit union that handed us a check for $1 million on the day we opened.
Wow.
For the veterans that work in this area in Butner, North Carolina. So anybody who lives in Butner or Virginia or North Carolina and they want our help, come. But private donations have been coming in. People care. They know that the sacrifice our veterans have made. And, because of that, and just Michael, like you and I met, I had another board of directors invitation to be on a Institute for Medical Research, which is spending millions of dollars researching medical advances that can help our veterans. And I'm honored to do these things. It's so much fun that people will look at you and go, maybe you can help. And every single, you and everybody that's listening to this broadcast have an opportunity to share the skills they have for people in need that give us the peace to sleep safely in our beds at night.
Amen. I think that's so fantastic. And I got a quick story here, but it's on the flip side of that. I've been working for over 20 years. I'm 4th generation military. I've been working for over 20 years fighting for our veterans, because I believe they're the fabric of this nation and their sacrifice should never be forgotten. But there's other high-level veterans out here, and you see sometimes where their focus gets a little bit skewed away from the what's happening. But I was talking to another veteran about writing a leadership book with a couple other veterans, and this will stay with me for the rest of my life. And so, it didn't work out. Then he went on to write a leadership book. He's a known name in America, and I'm high speed, low drag out there doing what I'm doing, and I never stopped. Well, I was up for a job, and I asked this veteran, I said, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation for this job? And he said, well, all I know is that you wrote a book on military transition for veterans. I don't know what you do for veterans. And that's the kind of thing that stuck with me. And that's why I ran for U.S. Congress, and I'm going to run again, because we have to get our stories out there, and what you do for our veterans. It's like to say to another veteran out there, there's veterans out there who are in need. It's not about just, having a verified account or selling books or being on a TV show. My heart is in this, and I love our veterans. And I saw what happened to my dad after Vietnam. He was on the USS Kitty Hawk, and I saw the transformation in a negative way about what he went through. And I don't want any other veteran to go through that. So when you hear these stories like yours, Doctor, it's like, hey, you know what? Some things are big. You just created this big infrastructure in North Carolina for veterans that you're going to impact over 100 veterans and then probably more for generations. But if you're in the community and you help one person and you served in the military, thank you for your service. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to, be on TV. You don't have to have a verified Twitter account to be famous or to be some Navy SEAL super fighter. It's great that we've had these opportunities to do the things that we've done for this country. But that selfless sacrifice, it's what those other veterans, what they don't have those opportunities, what we can give them. And I think our stories can continue on in perpetuity forever. And I think that, Robert, what you're doing, Doctor, is extraordinary. But what you're doing after your service is just way more important. And I think a lot of veterans that their lives are going to be changed is just fantastic.
Well, I hope you're right. That's why I get up every morning.
I have one quick question for you. You've done a lot of really cool things. You've been to multiple services, and now you're retired. Is there anything you miss?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm gonna switch around. I don't know if you could now. You really can't see it in the background, but hanging on the wall back behind me is the poster. It's blurred by the light of 2 Medal of Honor winners of Delta Force that were in Mogadishu and fast roped in to save a pilot, and they gave their lives in the process. I miss men like that. The wife of one of those men wearing the Medal of Honor winner posthumously was my nurse in the clinic, and you can't work with people of that quality and not miss them. It's just an amazing group of people who, just like the 18-year-old man who said, "Send me to war," and then he went, that wasn't fun, but he's a better man for it. He's doing well. He grew up, and nobody can not miss the camaraderie that comes with a military organization. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. They're just a camaraderie.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on the show, especially last minute, but we just talked the other day. We're going to continue talking, but one of the things I believe about Veteran Nation, but really it's really about veterans being united. There's a lot of organizations out there and there's a lot of duplication of services. We really need to combine resources. For example, this center's in North Carolina. If another state wants to duplicate that, or if they have something similar, we should be sharing resources. What I see happen in our veteran space is that it's a money grab, and a lot of people are fighting for dollars instead of trying to take care of the veteran and their families that are dealing with PTSD or TBIs or trying to get the care that they need, or they have a substance abuse issue, or they have a mental health issue. We have the Mission Act right now, where if you're not being seen in 20 days, especially with COVID, that these hospitals in the VA, they should be taking care of our veterans and their family members. And so I believe that, and also expanding care for family members. What do you feel about that, Doctor, in closing?
So, in closing, we owe a debt to our freedoms that cannot be repaid easily, but it must be repaid. So, we've got to do exactly what you just said. Recognize every day that the safety that we enjoy is a safety that's been paid for. And, give a little here, give a little there, give of your time, say thank you to the veterans that have served. And what will come of it is a safer and better America for our next generation.
And where can people get your books? Where can they go to learn about the center? Where can they get all that information?
Okay, plug for first book, Navy SEAL book, was about my training, called 6 Days of Impossible. A Doctor Looks Back. This is me trying to figure out why only 11 out of 70 of us made it through military training. But it's really a book about success and failure. It turns out the more you fail, the more likely you are to succeed. Both of these books are available on Amazon and Kindle, and as of August 25th, audiobook for both of them. So, check out Amazon, check out audiobook, look for Robert Adams and 6 Days of Impossible or Swords and Saints, and you'll find my book. And, I'm really proud of them because they're a labor of love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Writing is definitely a labor of love. And what about the Veterans Center? Where can they get that information?
So Veterans Life Center, VLCNC, Veterans Life Center, North Carolina, .org. Wonderful website, lots of information. We're accepting applicants. We'll take somebody that's getting out of jail, by the way, because veterans, get out, they're not being helped. They go to jail for being stupid. And when they get out, they go, where now? We'll take you. Drugs are not allowed, and certain problems are not not an entry or are an entry obstacle. But we'll take you from Raleigh, North Carolina, Washington State. Come see us, because what we've done in North Carolina is going to be replicated by the Veterans Administration in all 50 states in the country. We're just the first ones to do it.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Adams. God bless you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your service. And let's keep helping one more veteran, as many as we can help.
Thank you, Michael. And you got my vote.
God bless you, Doc. I appreciate you.
Thank you for coming on, Doc.
Tip my cap to you. Thank you. Who? Hey, Skipper. You know what I mean? There was things about the doc I didn't even know. I knew he was a Navy SEAL and a doctor, but he revealed a lot there. Really fantastic person.
I'm really glad that we're getting people on this show who want to tell their stories, because they're important stories that need to be told. And I'm glad that Doc's writing about it, because
are you guys
for future
seeing this
generations
too?
to
Of
know
course, I have it on my phone. Come
what
check it out.
they've done is important.
Wow, that's
Make
a
sure
big
all
old
of our
pig.
listeners,
Grandpa, record it for me.
subscribe to our show.
I already am, Gabe.
Show, YouTube, NRN
You know,
Plus. Follow
pigs
us
aren't
on
the only thing that
Facebook,
live out here in the
get to
woods.
us on Twitter,
Bigfoot lives here
help
too.
support our cause.
No
we
way.
need advertising.
Grandpa's
We need it
teasing
helps
you.
to reach
No,
more
I'm
vets.
not.
We want to
Here, take
expand
these.
the
I'm gonna
show.
go back out and get some
Thank you,
firewood.
MC. Skipper, thank you for your service. Thank you for doing the show with me. God bless America. God bless our brave men and women. And we're going to get more veteran women on here. We had a woman scheduled today. She wasn't able to
I don't
come
know.
on,
Get the
but
night
we definitely
vision.
want to highlight our women veterans. My sister's still serving. So I salute them, and we salute our men.
Guys,
we salute
I
everyone who
think I
serves.
see
God bless
something.
America. And
It's
thank you.
Bigfoot. Zoom in. Wait a minute. Bigfoot's wearing boots? It's Grandpa.
Oh man, busted.